Hey!
Oh, look at you.
How's it going?
Oh man, it's good. I was so worried, and then I just saw your message, and I was like, oh, because I was on a
Yeah, no
call,
worries.
that long call with family, and you're trying to say,
hmm
okay, like I need to, I need to go. Yeah,
I love you all. I need to leave. Yeah.
yeah, like
No,
I've
this
got a
worked out
thing,
perfect.
I've got a thing. I think you were on standby or something, and then they called you up when you didn't expect.
Yes,
Let me
I'm
know
a
what.
sub for a couple shows. I was at Six, the musical tonight, and I was. They originally called me in for tonight, but then also at the last minute called me in for Friday, and then two shows yesterday
Oh
as well.
man.
So it's one of those where it's like that's what the
Yeah,
job is. So
it does come
they,
with the job.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just this girl who's obsessed with music and yeah, I love flutes, I love singing, I love playing the
Okay.
piano, but I don't love singing as much to be fair. I love instruments more.
hmm
The voice is an instrument, yeah.
Yeah.
And having friends who sing, I've seen the vigorous training they've had to do, and
hmm
yeah, and they've had to sleep when they didn't want to sleep, when everyone is out
Yeah.
partying, they yeah, rest
hmm
your voice, and otherwise your vocal coach is going to be so mad at you. Oh, tomorrow we have a
Yeah.
performance or something like that. If your
There's
voice does
so
not show
much.
up
Yes.
because you went out last night.
Yeah.
But over time, I started falling in love with, I guess, all the work that goes into putting that show on. Oh,
I
and then
love
I
that.
started like learning about the science of sound and just even how we
hmm
perceive sound, how magical it is.
hmm
And I've always loved the fact that I have the ear for music. And I'm
There's a lot.
curious to find out for you the music you grew up listening to. You know what I mean? How that shaped you in what you're doing now and how that really has come to be.
It did shape a lot because I listened to a lot of movie soundtracks, musicals. I started living theater very early on. My parents probably wanted to destroy the 10th anniversary CD of Les Mis because I played that so much.
To the
Um,
ground.
yes, I'm sure we're so done with it, but it's turned into a viable career, so they can't be that mad.
Right.
I listened to some of like Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears.
Yes.
Um, my parents were very much 80s rock, so I listened
Yeah.
to a lot of that. I still very much love 80s rock, which works out very well because in most theaters all across the country, a lot of the stagehands are 50 to 70-year-old white men. They are
Right.
always happy. It's great. A lot of 80s rock, but loved musicals. One of those would just get a soundtrack and start listening to it on repeat for weeks at a time. So I very much come to sound from the theater side of things, where I like to say you have, especially in theater, you have theater people who are doing sound,
Yeah.
which for me, I love mixing shows. I love having a story, but then you also have sound people doing theater who, if you ask them, like, oh, hey, would you ever want to go out on a concert tour? They'd be like, oh, yeah, this, or like, love talking about systems and all that stuff. And you're like, you're here for the sound. I'm here for a completely different thing. So happy you're here. Definitely approaching this from two different angles.
A lot of people don't understand how many moving parts are in
hmm
this world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think one of the questions I really wanted to ask you was how do you even explain, how do you go about explaining to someone else what your job is on the day to day? Or like if you just call up to go do a job, maybe you're standing in for someone who didn't show up for some reason or the other. You can do that, but it's not what you do. Have you been in that situation where it's like you're just kind of filling in?
Yes. I had one show that I had to hop in because the mixer got COVID. This was back in
Oof.
2023.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So basically got a phone call from a friend who was like, "Hey, so our mixer's sick. We don't know if it's COVID or not. Can you
Oof.
hop on a train and get to Midtown and we'll have you sit and shadow the show. And then if it is COVID, if he's not feeling well, you'll hop in and take over to continue the rest of the shows
Right.
for however long he needed. And in the about hour it took me to throw some clothes on, get to the train, head down, walked into the theater, and they were like, yeah, so it's COVID. How do you
Oh,
feel about mixing a show?
man.
So thankfully it's a situation where at least we're doing the same type of thing, that I know how to mix a show and they have to be like, okay, here's the script, this is what we're doing.
Right.
All of that stuff. It was also Peter Pan Goes Wrong, which I don't know if you've seen any of the Goes Wrong shows. So it was one of those where you're like, okay, if I mess up, this is the best kind of show to do it on, because
it works.
Welcome to everything else that's happening. Yeah, it's fine. But that was at least a moment where, thankfully, you're just having to translate a different show to another person. Trying to explain, even to other theater people, what we do is... It can be difficult, because a lot of people are just like, oh, like, I had a carpenter who was just like, oh yeah, you're just DJing out front, right? It's like, no.
No.
Not really.
No.
Not. Everyone has their idea of what we're doing, but there's a lot of times where they don't actually understand until it's like, no, come out and sit with me and see what I'm doing. That we're mixing line by line, we're catching every single individual line, we're moving with the band, we're doing all of this stuff. So sound ironically is one of those things that it's almost better to show than to tell, because I've had so many people who... Sorry, you're going to get some sounds of New York through the windows.
Oh, good. Sound.
Yeah. Yep, here we are. But yeah, I found that it's very hard to verbally describe what we do, and a lot of times it's not until people can sit with me while I'm at the console and actually see what's going on.
And even appreciate the work that goes into it. Yeah, and
just have any clue, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you just sit at the board and you hit go, right? It's like, nope, that would be lighting. We actually do stuff.
Yeah.
Hi.
And visual mixes in this world is different from visual mixes. I remember when I was on a TV set, back in the day, TV is just a whole different ball game.
Yes.
I think I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so someone on the floor who's supervising, having to focus on the visual cues and the newsreader and who breaks away to the next part that's happening in the story, or you know what I mean, after the bulletin. It's my mind was like, I just like I could not imagine doing that. For the most part, my world has not been visual. On the console, like front of house, once you set up and everything is going great, you can kind of just chill. And at some point, I guess, if there's a lot of bodies then in that space, and obviously environmental factors affect, then you can kind of tweak things here or there, whatever. But we used to laugh at these memes when you're in a life of a sound engineer, and then they would show just people just hands on the desk, like just don't need to be tweaking. Oh my gosh, every 5 seconds. It's not like that. Oh my gosh, it drove me nuts. I was laughing. People tweak and lose their minds when they didn't do sound check. The only things like I'm saying is when there are now bodies in that space. There weren't bodies when you guys were sound checking. Obviously then, okay, the sound will behave differently.
Something's changed,
Yeah, but it's not, that much to tweak. I can't imagine theater because in theater, I think I've been just more on stage, just performing, not putting it all together for people to appreciate. And so that's why I was like, I need to talk to Heather. I need to get into that. Oh my gosh. I was in big band. I was like, I just have to worry about my score. That's
honestly the hope. I mean, at least for me, for sound, I'll usually trying to talk to the actors or the musicians, or saying like, hey, what do you need from us? Right. And usually what I'll say is like, if I can help you do your job better and I can make your job easier, that will make my job easier. Right. When you're not thinking about what's going on, when you're not in your own head, they're acting better, they're playing better, and we have more to work with when they're not in their own heads. So that's very much a thing for me, where it's when you're talking about where you're like, great, you're not thinking about it. That's perfect. So much of theater is help me help you and help you help me, because this is very much a symbiotic relationship.
It can go either way if I mess up.
Yeah.
I remember like when I was in the cinema for the first time, I could hear the sound all around me. I'm like, what is happening? I felt weird. Dolby Atmos and everything. You get to appreciate a full body experience of how we perceive sound.
It's all around you. Yeah. I don't remember the first time in a movie theater experiencing Dolby Atmos. Like that's one of the Also very bad. I do not see enough movies. I have a select number of friends who are the ones that drag me and be like, we're going to go see a movie. And it's like, great, I love that. But me on my own, I go, oh yeah, that would be really fun to see. And then
you don't go.
Be like, and then I don't go, and then it's no longer in the theater, and then I rinse and repeat with some other show. It's also fun to have that surround aspect in theater, because a lot of shows, especially because I toured for a while, so for a lot of shows, you don't have enough time to tour a full surround system. And the only show that I toured with that had a system was Phantom, because we had 3 full days to load in. We had an advance crew that would also help us. We had more local hands in each city to do that as well. So that was the only one that we traveled with it. On Les Mis in Saigon, we had it for a couple stops, where if we were playing a month or something like that, we would have it, but for Phantom was a minimum of 2 weeks, and then Les Mis in Saigon were a minimum of 1 week, so you just don't have enough time when you have a day and a half to load in, and then 7 hours to load it out. There's just not enough time. For Phantom, it's you want the surrounds because you can hear, you have the voice moving at certain points with the Phantom as he's throwing his voice around. For Saigon, you also you want surrounds, so you get the full overhead flyover of the helicopter and all of that stuff. Les Mis was one of those where it was like, okay, it's kind of fun for the battle to have bullets whizzing by and that type of thing, but you don't really need it. And we were in tech for that show, and that kind of, like, you remembering with Dolby Atmos, like, that is a core memory for me. I just remember standing at the desk with our associate next to me, and it was one where we finished the prologue, and then when you go into the main section, it was one of those where you probably shouldn't have done it, but for most of the tour, it was just faders all the way up to the top.
Oh, man.
And you just had this explosion of sound. And that was the first time we had gotten there with the full band. For that designer, he had reverbs were in the surrounds, and he had a close mic and an ambient mic on each of the strings. So the close mic was going through the main system, the ambient mic was going through the surrounds, those kind of little touches. And I just remember where we finished the prologue, first time with the full band, and threw the faders for that, and you just heard all of this sound all around. And I just looked over at the associate and was like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I want surrounds for every stop. I'm like, okay, I had thought that you didn't really need them, but damn, that was good.
Right. You gotta feel it. You gotta experience it. Yeah, it does.
So it's like those little moments. Yeah, if you can add, it's something for me. Projections is one of those things in theater where it can either be, it can be very useful, it can be very subtle and artistic, or it can just be gaudy and obvious and awful. Because I did a production of Wizard of Oz where the tornado sequence was with projections, and it was kind of a weird thing where it's like you have the normal like things spinning around, and then it like shot the house out into space, and it just kind of floats there for a second before it just like goes and craters back to Earth and ends up in Oz. But there was one review that we had that it was something to the effect of the projections make it look like Dorothy is entering Oz via Google Earth. And you were sitting there going like, honestly, can't even argue with that. It's kind of accurate. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's that type of thing, but with sound, where it's like you can have surrounds where it's just you're just hammering people with sound and it's very obvious and it's distracting and it's pulling from the stage, or you can have it where it's something like Saigon with the helicopter flying overhead, where it serves a very specific purpose and it helps ground you and adds to it. Or you can have it where Les Mis was that very much just like subtle little touches that just make you go, oh yeah, oh yeah, this is good. You can add a world in a world.
Yeah. That's the thing with me. I always approach everything I work on artistically. I have to see the art in it before I guess the science of it, and when we create like the world, and we figure out how do we root things, how do we mix it, how does it eventually then go to the monitor, the line array system or whatever that we're using. But let me imagine the world of it. Right?
Yeah, what do I want it to be? And then how do we get there? Yeah.
And some people actually want to see the end of it first. Then they want to work their way back. I think I got this from working with Foley. I was mentored by a very great man when I was in my early 20s or something like that. Basically, he was mixing drama stories, old school drama stories for radio.
Okay.
Most of my world has not involved visual. So then we have to create the world. Oh, I just wanted to see so badly.
Like, I want to see what this looks like.
Yeah. But then we have to just, you know what I mean, work on footsteps and knocks on the door and all these things, the door not open and whatever. Leaving the door ajar, can you tell that it's ajar? But people can't see that. They're like, no, but when we mix in, and people follow the script. When you listen to the story on radio, people will know that the door was left ajar. I was like, they won't know, they can't see. I struggled with that.
But if you don't hear it click shut, you know it's ajar.
Oh, man. That's what they tried to explain to me, is that for mix and for Foley and everything, when someone is listening to a story on the radio, they fill in as well the missing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People's minds, that's how our minds work.
Yeah, your brain will automatically fill it in.
And then it makes sense if you keep listening to the story. If she just walks out and then closes the door, it's like, oh, then she had left it open initially. For me, I'm thinking, oh, I have to work that much harder to sell it, to someone who's listening and to keep them engaged in the story. But it made me appreciate the work he did. Yeah. When I eventually got to do it, because he was mentoring me for me to then take over and do the stories and everything, that I got to love radio in a way I didn't love it before. I just loved, broadcasting and news anchors, and especially talk radio, because I love talking and I love social issues and hearing people dissect issues and how we can find solutions. When it came to storytelling, it sparked something new in me. Have you worked on that?
No, not really. I've pretty much been live theater for the entirety of my career. But yeah,
walk me through just your love for storytelling like that in theater.
So that's something when I was a kid, read books obsessively.
You're just hitting all the spots. Come on, music, sound, theater, books.
Perfect.
Let's go.
When I was a kid, that was our punishment for both me and my sister, was our parents would take away our books when we were kids. Oh, no. So that was... Well, and it got to a point where we had too many of them, and so my parents would just be like, okay, just don't read. Okay, like, that's your... Like, we're not gonna physically go in and take your stuff. That's gonna take way too long. Just don't do it. I remember there was one time I got in trouble, and I was sitting in my room reading, and my sister walked in, and she's like, you're not supposed to be reading! And it was just like, oh, well. So...
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I was a pain in many other ways. I hit my teenage hormonal years early, so even though my parents didn't have a lot to deal with in terms of disciplining a child all that much, I'm sure I made up for it in other ways.
Right.
But that wasn't like, since pretty much as soon as I could read and function with big stories, have just been reading, and that was the type of thing, like, love the different stories, love the characters, loved all of that. Always kind of had an interest in theater because it was an extension of that. But when I was in middle school, the high school that I would have gone to if we had stayed in Connecticut, we moved a couple times when I was a kid, but that high school did a production of Les Mis. That it was something my sister and her friend dragged me to, and I was like, okay, fine, we'll go. And sitting there watching the show itself was very well done, especially for a high school production. It was a great show, but in true theater fashion, you always have far more women than men, and they had cast a girl to play Javert, the main antagonist, and that for me was like, oh, I like this. Yeah, it's like, I know that women don't normally play this role, and I like that you're here and that just kind of grabbed me, and from there was... Something
outside of the norm.
Yeah, and I'm very much that, like, ooh, something that maybe I'm not supposed to normally be doing, but I can kind of get away and I can do with. Okay, this is intriguing. How do I do this? And I was interested in acting for a while. Did some acting throughout middle school and high school, and in high school kind of realized that I enjoyed acting, but never enough to go through the slog of auditioning and rehearsing and classes and all of that. So it's something where it's just like, I enjoy it, I'm reasonably good at it, but have no desire to
You can
really
let it
pursue
go.
it. Yeah. And that was something that, again, a lot of women in theater. My freshman year didn't get cast in the shows that we had, so the director was just like, okay, you guys still want to do stuff. I actually wanted to do lighting, but my sister, she's older than me by a year, she got to pick first, so she picked lighting. So I was
Oh
like,
my.
okay, well, I guess I'm doing
Lighting's gone.
sound.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, still doing it. Sound was the type of thing that in high school kind of was like, okay, this is fun, this is great, but kind of was just doing a whole bunch of different things between acting, different tech stuff. Kind of if I was on tech, I was doing sound, but in high school, it was like, I'm going to audition for the shows. If I get a show, like, the priority was, if I can act in the show, I would like to act in the show. But I also started working at the SeaWorld San Antonio theme park as an audio operator. So that, like, I did a show with, we were the only land-based show that had a whole bunch of dogs and cats. We had an emu, a teacup pig, a porcupine, and it was just a whole bunch of sound effects. We had these, basically they had the barest stretch of a storyline, and we had these cowboys who were dressed up in these like neon colors. The people were delightful. The production where you're just like, okay, it's fun. We're not going to look too closely at this. Let's just go. But that was fun. Working on shows and operating shows, that was fun. And since I knew I wanted to do theater and it kind of been like, acting's not for me, I like doing the tech and I can actually see doing that as a career. So started doing that. And when it came time to apply for college, just kind of did the whole like, well, I've been doing sound, so I guess I should continue to do sound. And there were only a few universities at that point that actually had a major in audio. Most of them had a general theater program and a tech theater program. In the U.S., we have IATSE, which is International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees.
Mouthful.
I think that's what it stands for. But IATSE. So for me to tour, so went to school for theater, graduated, went on tour. You have to be part of IATSE because you can, as a union member, you can work in a non-union house, but you cannot work in a union house as a non-union member. So that was something that when you get on a crew, if you're not already a union member, the show basically goes to the union and says, hey, we need this person to join. Here you go. So, but within IATSE, sound is still technically a subset of electrics. It's only within probably the past 10 years that even the head of the audio department used to have assistant electrician and sound on their card, and it's only within about the 10 years that it actually says head audio. It's an interesting type of thing because it's when, depending on the house, is when you either completely ignore the rule or play into it, because there's some houses that they're pushed by department. So you'll have some people who are designated as pushers to help, but other than that, all the carpenters have to grab all the carpentry stuff. All the props people grab the prop stuff.
Yeah.
But you can kind of get away with it because people are just like, oh, well, like an electrician can be like, oh, well, that's a sound console I can't touch. And you're like, technically we're all electrics, so let's go. So, but it's one of those, you typically have to go to the head electrician and be like, hi, can I borrow your people?
Do you have those moments where you wake up, something wakes you up, you're working on something, and you just have a new idea of how you would do something differently?
Kind of the nice thing about my job specifically as a mixer is that it can only happen in the theater. We might be able to do it in a studio or something if we're training someone and have a recording, but for the most part, for me to actually work on things for a show, it can really only happen in the theater.
For
like
the show.
like sound, like the sound designer, and if people are working on sound effects, like they can work on them at home and that kind of stuff. For me, it's a lot more of logistics, where it's the, okay, I'm going to go through my script, this page turn is weird, or these type of things that are happening. I don't know exactly how it works, but I have kind of, like, in the olden days, you used to have, like, people would tie a string around their finger for them to remember something.
Oh.
I don't know where that came from, but if you've ever watched It's a Wonderful Life, has that where one of the characters has strings on his fingers and they'll reference, like, things he's supposed to remember.
Yeah.
But,
I'll try to go back to it.
But yeah, but that's something I'll have where there's sometimes where I'll just put a circle in my script as I'm coming up to be like, oh yeah, I needed to do that. And it's the circle makes sense in context. So for me, it's a lot more of, okay, while I was doing my job, either this didn't fit, this didn't work. And there are some times where you have that where you just need to sleep on it. And then you go, oh wait, I think I can fix this if I do that.
It comes to you later,
Yeah. It's more the way to solve problems, like for the logistics or for programming and things like that. So there's some times where I'll kind of sit there and be like, okay, I want to build something that can do this, this, and this. So it's kind of sitting through, and it's a little bit of that like computer programming mindset of like, what language am I trying to... Have you worked with QLab?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can do scripts in there and things like that. So it's a little bit of the like, okay, what am I trying to do? So what language do I have to use to make sure that that can
this
happen?
Happens and this is the outcome.
I like doing those little things. Like there's something where it's the dumbest, easiest scripts and things on QLab, but it's things that I do it infrequently enough that I will have to go back to the cookbook that they do and go back and like look through the manual things on it to figure out what the variables are that I'm looking for. But that's something for me, like if you have multiple people that have recordings that are in a show. For Mean Girls, we had where Katie had a scream that she did, Regina had a couple different things that she did, and Karen had a couple different things. So you have to have recordings for each actor that plays each character.
Right.
And I'm very much, I like visual representations that say, this is the status of things. I was sitting there and I was like, how do I do this so I can see who is in as these people and I don't have to go into the different groups and see who's... So I had a playlist that just had a cue that said Katie, and then it would have, when you enabled the different people, it had a script that would put in there and say, like, great, is Danny, is English, is Karen, like that, and would put in so you could actually see, if you had that cue list open, you could see those things. And it was like, this is all I needed in my life.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, like, what are the challenging parts of your job? I guess that would be it, trying to figure out how to make things, recognizable for you. For you, this is what you need to be able to do your job, to operate.
Yeah. The difficult part of my job is, well, the difficult and the job security part of my job is that it's never going to be the same show. People will always ask me, like, don't you get bored? And they're like, yeah, you kind of settle in. People are going to do things differently. Yes. They're going to make random choices just because they feel like it. And you'll sit there and be, okay, that's what we're doing today. Great. Yeah, there's times where you're just like, here we go. Or sometimes where you just... I don't think I do it too much anymore, but I think I mostly did it on Les Mis because someone was making fun of me that I don't verbalize when I'm frustrated. I just make gestures. So I would be sitting there mixing and just be like, and just roll my eyes at them and go, I don't know what you're doing. Fine, shrug and keep going.
Listening to you since we started having this conversation, from where you started, the experience that you've gained with each and everything that you did, I think it prepared you for the emotions of like not freaking out.
Yes, and it's a good thing to have a balance of personalities. Cody Spencer, who I've worked with for the past few years and few shows, I've learned that we're a good balance to each other because he can get very energetic and amped up, like especially if we're having quiet. If sound is the focus of anything that we're doing, he's at 110%. Like he's running around, he's on stage with the actors trying to hear what they're hearing. He's like going through house trying to, and so it helps because I'm typically a very calm person, and so he'll be like, okay, we need to do this, and it's like, okay, I will work on it, and he'll be like, okay, you're working on it. Great. And just, we have a good balance of, he can get really energetic and he cares so much. And it's really good to have people who care so much. That relationship works very well because there was a point on Outsiders where he was on stage. The actress who was on stage wasn't hearing enough of the guitar for her to get her first notes. And I remember I was back at the console, our production guy was also back with me, and he's a mixer as well. And we were trying to figure out, both of us are going through the signal chain of like the guitar coming in to how it's getting sent to routing to the fullback and all that stuff. And we're both looking at each other like, I don't know what's happening. And Cody, like, again, sound is the focus of things. So he's getting more amped up and more energetic. And he's like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? What's going on?
Oh boy.
And I finally was just like, honestly, I don't have a good answer for you.
Clue. Yeah.
And he immediately was like, oh, okay, well, we'll move on and we'll figure this out later. So, like, he has that energy, but if you be like, I don't know what's happening, he'll be like, okay, something bigger is happening, we need to figure out, we need to focus it. But that's something where if I was sitting there and I was also an excitable person, I'd be like, I don't know what's happening, I don't know what's going on, and then we would,
Oh, it might be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. You see it a lot when you have people who, like, they haven't quite found their team and that balance.
Yeah.
So either there's holes that nobody can fill, or they're trying to fill too many things themselves and getting pulled too thin. It's really nice when you find a team that you're like, okay, we all have our puzzle piece. And honest, Outsiders was a really good example because the majority of us had multiple different things that we could do. I'm primarily a mixer, but had to do enough touring where you have to kind of slip into the design side of things to a point to make sure that the system actually has coverage and you're adjusting things per venue so that it fits. But I've also done some production stuff of figuring out how the system goes together in that bit. So it's like I could help and be like, hey, this feels weird. Can we do this?
Can we do this instead? Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone, they had their niche of like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm here to do, but had enough of a little spill into things where they could be like, okay, cool, I can go help with this if I need to, or like, okay, I understand what needs to happen here, I can go talk to them. That was a really good experience of all of us just being like, cool, we've kind of got
because
this.
That's synergy. You can kind of also create your own chemistry. So do you find it easier making friends who do the same thing you do, or who understand what you do, or like, do you want friends who don't do what you do?
If you have a bunch of sound people and you put us at a bar, I give it about 5 minutes before it turns into a sound conversation.
Fuck.
So, yeah. So, I do love sound people, and there are times where you're just like, I just want to go, I want to, like, let's just talk about work, and just complain about whatever stupid thing happened today. Yes, let's do it. And there's other times where you sit there and you've had the 5 minutes of non-sound conversation, and then you get into 15 minutes of sound conversation and you make eye contact with someone else around the table and you're like, we're both done with this. We're gonna go and find our, okay, great. So I'm not great at finding non-sound or non-theater people friends just because that's our environment. This was even a thing back in college. One of my very good friends, neither of us were very system, like, equipment-oriented people, and you would just have some of the guys who, the conversation just devolves into numbers and letters because they're rattling off model numbers and stuff. And when they would do that and go on for far too
the new
long.
SSL? Have you seen
Yeah. It's like, oh my god, this new thing. Oh, yeah, this is, and this is, yeah. And there would come a point where she and I would look at each other, and then we just, like, out of the blue, just be like, oh my god, like, shoes and purses, we should really go shopping. And you would just see the guys stop and be like, oh, we started doing it again, didn't we? And it was like, yes, you did. And we don't, like, we would like to have a conversation. Right. So we would just go so far in the opposite direction from what they were doing that they were like, oh. I have a couple friends that were very goal-oriented at this point about finding hobbies and finding things outside of theater.
Okay.
So I technically have a degree, it's a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theatrical Design and Technology.
Okay.
And it's an emphasis in sound design and costume technology.
Okay.
Yes. So that's one of those where my sound design professor, Curtis, every once in a while, he'll be like, oh yeah, somebody was just like, who did the weird double emphasis? And he'll be like, that would be Heather. That would be, and it's like, yep. Because most people will do lighting and sound or lighting and technical direction.
Yeah.
or sometimes scenic and costumes, that type of thing. But I was the one who was like, nope, I'm going clear on the other side of campus because I would like to sit in a costume shop and make things. I think it was a combination of you get to physically make things in a costume shop, which was nice. And there was a lot more feminine energy in the costume shop as well. I need to get back to sewing. I haven't done it in several years. But it's one of those, like, that was my balance then of when they got too involved in model numbers and stuff like that, I'd be like, cool, I'm gonna go sew some stuff and figure out how to build a dress. Someone asked me at one point, like, oh, what are your hobbies? And I was like, I don't know.
Really,
Like, I like to read.
Do you have time to read?
I have been making more time. There was definitely probably a point of about like 7 years where I was like, I've read every once in a while. Actually, there's one, if you like books, there is a series called Dungeon Crawler Carl. Okay. That I don't know if you have read it, but it is one of my favorite things. It's not complete yet. There's books 1 through 7 so far.
I should mark it down.
Yes, absolutely. Because that was on Outsiders, our pyro guy. Basically, before I left the show, he had just been like, read this book. And I was like, okay, well, I have to finish it so I can get you back the book.
Right.
But that was one of the ones that he suggested and started reading. Was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And just burned my way through the other 6 books in the series. So highly recommend. But it's been something where it's been finding those series again, because when I was a kid would find something and just start reading. Yeah. And honestly, like, most books for adults are kind of boring.
How does your family feel about your job, your work, and like, do they celebrate you and tell you how amazing you are and all the things you've achieved? Or do they get to come out and watch you on the job and stuff like that?
A little bit of both. My parents are not good at the phone works both ways, so they will always wait for me to call them. And they'll always do the whole, like, well, we don't know your schedule. You were so busy.
Just call me.
Yeah, it's like, just call me. If I can't answer, I won't pick up.
Right.
But now, if you call me, I assume it's an emergency because you're calling me.
Oh, man.
So I will definitely pick up. Thankfully, my family has been very, very understanding, especially with tour. You have a week where you get laid off because the tour isn't scheduled for anywhere. So in tour world, the term layoff is synonymous with vacation. So you're like, great, layoff? Absolutely. And the first time I kind of said that in front of my dad, because my dad is one of those people that he worked a 9-to-5 job his entire life. He's used to that routine. He was like, layoff isn't a good word. You know that, right? And it's like, for us it is, because that means I'm not at work. I have been here for 10 weeks. I get a week off.
Have they been worried about you financially? Have you had to explain to them that actually I can make decent money, Mom?
Yeah. At the beginning, they were very worried. It was when I told them that I wanted to go into theater. My mom's first response was, but you're smart. And yeah. And the second one was, okay, you probably should have like a double major or something that you do. And that was... As we started looking at colleges and things like that, they were like, oh, okay, like, the technical side of it is different from the acting side, and it's, when I moved to the city, I subletted with an actor friend for 6 months, and it was just like, great, like, I'll come here, I'll have 6 months to kind of get my footing, be able to look for an apartment, and not have to do it remotely, and the difference is stark, because I was sitting there in my pajamas being like, hi, I'm in the city now. If you have anything, let me know. And I'm helping her push the dining room table out of the way so she can record dance combinations. And there was, I don't remember what the show was for, but it was one where she had to do, it was a dialogue side, two different dialogue sides, two different dialogue scenes for that. Like a song for a principal number, a song as an ensemble, and a dance audition. And she did all of these things and was talking with me. She's like, yeah, I probably won't get it, but it's good to, and you're just like, you're putting this much effort into something
that you might not
get. You don't expect to get. Well, and even it was like, she didn't expect to get it. She was saying, I'm not really right for these, but I'm still going to audition. And I was like, Me and my bunny slippers are feeling real bad for you right now. But so it is very much a different thing. And kind of once my parents started figuring that out, it was much better. Because especially for me going out on tour, I've always been a fairly frugal person. And on tour you get paid per diem. So either the company pays for your hotel and you get a certain amount that's basically for food, or they provide options for hotels but don't necessarily pay for your hotel. Or if the company isn't paying for the hotel, they have to pay you a higher per diem rate that covers both lodging and food.
I see.
But for a lot of it, for most of my time on tour, like most of my expenses were covered with per diem and then a little bit into what I was making, but nothing like moving to New York where I'm not making per diem and I actually have to pay rent and you're sitting there being oh, this is a normal person thing and it kind of sucks. So being on the road and not, because I did that straight out of college, so I didn't have an apartment. It wasn't like I didn't have a family back home that I had to send money to because my parents, thankfully, are very stable. So I was able to save a lot.
I'm also blessed on that front because I have a lot of friends who were taking any job, like job after job, because they had to support family and, you know what I mean? But thankfully, if you kind of like don't have to do that, then you get to even save up, you know, the little bit of money that's coming in, like you get to actually save it up because you're not a spender, you're not a fancy girl or anything like that. And I was the same.
And and I think that helped a lot. Like when my family kind of realized that I had a cushion, that even if I did go into freelance work, which that was something we're making the move to getting off of tour and moving to New York, my dad had... It's one of those where my mom will kind of just be like, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. My dad's like, but have you thought about this? So...
Same. Like this perpetual freelancer thing. Like at some point you gotta, figure out a field, settle in it, gain experience in it.
And that New York is very much one of those places that it takes time to build up some momentum.
Right.
And for me, since I had spent time on tour, I knew a bunch of people in the city from doing shop preps with people and from working with designers on different shows. So I came in, instead of having to kind of come in on the base level of I need to meet people, I need to start working, I need to develop connections. Yeah, I already had some connections to rely on, which was very helpful. And there's never enough good people. So it's very much, I went to visit a friend, and it was one of those where he was like, hey, do you mind if we you're here, do you mind if we grab lunch with my mom? Because he lives in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so his mom was like, so why did you come to Chattanooga, Tennessee? And I was like, I'm here to visit my friend. Yeah. And you could tell that she was just, and even he was like, thanks, Mom. And it was something like he had just bought a house, so it was like, of course, I'm gonna come see your new house and stay, And his mom was like, so why are you here?
Cramping it style, cramping it, Mom.
She was very sweet, but just that interaction was entertaining. Yeah. And she knew that I lived in New York. And she was like, oh, like, are you able to find enough work and to stay busy and all that stuff? And I was like, I have to leave the city to not do work. Like, I have to tell people I am physically not available because I will not be within a 2-hour plane ride of the city.
Oh, man.
I was out of town in Boston for the month of December doing a show with Cody and came back. And I was supposed to have this entire week off before tomorrow we start in the shop to start prepping the next show. And that was something where I was like, great, I'll have an entire week. This will be lovely. I can sit and do nothing. I can go see friends and go like grab brunch with people and have, and just chill. And I had Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday where I didn't have anything. I got called in for jury duty on Thursday, so that was very boring. And then Friday got the call about doing this weekend. So it was like,
Yeah.
Okay, well, my 7 days off suddenly turned into 3
Right.
somehow. Great.
But you haven't felt overworked? You've loved every minute of it?
You do reach a point. There are some people who really like the freelance subbing life. You cobble together a schedule of a whole bunch of different things. And you have some people who prefer, like, I just like to get on a show and have a standardized schedule and just be able to run this out for as long as the show will run. And then you have people like me who you do the subbing thing for a while and sit there and go, this is a lot. I have zero control over my own schedule. So when Cody called me about doing Outsiders, I think it was the month of July into the month of August. I was training on one show, trained to mix 2 other ones. So there was like 4 weeks where I was at Funny Girl Tuesday evening. I would go into 6 for the Wednesday morning work call and matinee. And then I would go to Beautiful Noise in the evening to continue training. And then the rest of the week was a smattering of those different shows. And it was right at that point where Cody called me about doing Outsiders. And he was very sweet because I had said, like, hey, because also knowing that I was coming into the city, there's not a lot of people who come in with a show. And when Cody called me, he was like, hey, so I know that you said you wanted to sub for a while, but would you maybe possibly want to do this full-time show? And I was sitting there being, yes. Man. I would like a consistent schedule for the love of God.
The way he pitched it.
Yeah, he was. I was talking to a friend and was like, it was the funniest thing and she was like, it sounded like he was trying to ask you out, doing the whole like, hey, like this would be really cool if you wanted to, but if you don't, totally cool, completely get it. But like, I think it would be really cool, like if we did, like this would be awesome. And it was.
I see it.
It was very much that energy of like, I would like you to do this, but I don't know if you want to. So if you did, that'd be great. But like, yeah, totally okay if you don't. Like, but I was at that point where I was like, yes, absolutely. And he was, you could hear him on the phone be like, oh, okay. I expected this to be a much harder sell. I need some stability in my life at this point because this has been chaos. And it was also part of like the Peter Pan Goes Wrong was thrown in there at one point. Well, after being on tour for a while, and now I do have a little cushion of savings. For me, it's not as important to be like, great, like I'm on a show that's going to run for the next couple of years. Like it's like I can leave and still be fine. But I kind of had a moment where management wasn't as happy with me taking the time off that I wanted to do because there would be random pockets of like, I had an October where we had a reunion with one of the tours where it's like we all left for a week and like went to Vegas where a tour that had a handful of people was already there. So we're like, great, we're going to get a whole bunch of people together. We're going to meet you in Vegas. We'll spend a weekend there. It's going to be great. And then my family had something, so I took some time off. I did another little mini vacation with a friend. My friend, her daughter turned 1, so I was going to visit her for her daughter's first birthday. So it was like a whole bunch of stuff in 1 month. A whole bunch of
things were happening, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like that type of thing where things would cluster up and they would be like, so you're taking a lot of time off. And I was like, yes. And the other side of that was we were able to have shadows who could sit with me at the board. And a lot of them were student shadows and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, like, this seems like a lot of people. Like, I'm all for an educational experience. There's student shadows. It's December. They're off of school. But it was very much like the 2 straws that broke the camel's back. It was like, if you're going to take away my ability to have time off, and if you're going to give me grief about having shadows, which is basically like 2 of the best, like the show itself was a very good show and enjoyed mixing it. But it was like, these are the 2 things that would keep me on a show if you allow me to do these things and you're making it difficult. So that was kind of the point where it was like, I'm good. Great. We're going to plan our exit. I have other things that we can do. Man. I will always try to make a graceful exit if possible. I have yet to meet the guy who took over for me on Saigon because they just took so long to hire him to the point where I was like, I literally have to go to my other job. I told you 3 months ago I would be leaving and I have to leave.
And that's the thing, like, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, on the flip side, you know that they value you, but student shadows, I mean, they're good for something. They can literally step in and approve what they've learned. But I find a lot of bosses don't trust the poor student shadows. They don't trust them. They want their main person.
Yeah, and that was something where, for us, it's good to take time off because usually you have like 3 or 4 people who can sub on a show.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, great. If I take time off, you get other people in, they get practice, they get time. It's not like you don't sit there and be like,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's one thing if someone is just hogging the space, but it's another if they're willing to also pass on the knowledge and pass on, you know, that we can all eat, basically. What have you found really fulfills you in the many hats you've worn over the years?
Well, that's something that it all kind of goes back. Finding Sound Girls was a very good thing for me because, well, part of it was I started blogging for them. What was supposed to be a normal 2020 when I signed up to blog for them, and turned into the pandemic, and that ended up being it ended up being a very good thing for me because I still had that connection. Like, great, like, these blogs are just gonna be how much, like, I miss working on theater, and I love all of this. But that's something I think kind of anyone who grew up reading also has some love for writing. Those creative interests kind of go hand in hand a lot. So I've always enjoyed writing. So getting to do the blogs and things like that has been great because I got off the road and part of me was like, okay, I've been touring for 10 years and now I'm just stopping. So what happens to all of that stuff in my head? And so doing the blogs was a good way of like, oh, I can still use this. I can still help teach other people. So mentoring has become a very big thing. So and I think that was one of the reasons why, like, having someone push back on me having student shadows come in and things like that was like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like you taking this potential away from me or trying to limit it. So mentoring and doing that and getting to talk with people like you who just really enjoy this and are passionate about it and just want to sit and chat and that type of thing. I really enjoy that. But like you talking about my parents coming to see the shows and things like that is they'll come up and see it. Like when I was subbing on stuff, they came up and saw those. They came up for the opening night of Outsiders and having them be so excited for me and be like, you're doing this thing that you always wanted to do. And like, I'm exhausted and being like, okay, yeah, this is cool. This is okay. Yeah. Okay, seeing it through your eyes definitely helps.
But you didn't stop to pause and take it in because, I mean, you're just in it.
Yeah, you're just running around. But yeah, it was, I think one of my favorite things was I had my parents come in to the theater where I was like, just pop in and like just see what a theater looks like when we're in the middle of tech and the entire theater is covered with tech tables and it looks nothing like a normal theater.
Right.
And my parents were just like, no, like, we're fine. We've seen a theater before. We know. And I was like, no, just come in. Just see what it is. They walked in, and you just saw this shell-shocked expression on their faces. And they're like, we didn't realize, where it's just like half the theater is covered with tables. And my dad was looking around. He was like, why is there so much food? I was like, because we're just foraging at this point. We're dead tired. Half of us don't even have enough energy to leave the building for the lunch break.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, this is our home. We have moved in. Yeah. But that was very funny of my dad just being like, why is there so much food? I think that's kind of what re-energizes me and brings me back is getting to write, which is great, but also getting to mentor and help people and just being like, so here's all the dumb stuff I've done. Maybe don't do that. Right. Or if you do that, realize it's dumb and you might have to do it to learn.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Oh.
Like, who's Heather? I mean, I literally am going to base everything on this one conversation. You know what I mean? So I'm not the best person to ask, but for me, I'll give you my 3 words after you give me yours. I'll give you mine for you.
I've got 2. I'm trying to figure out the third one.
Yeah.
I would go with happy, driven, and helpful.
Oh, those are good ones. No, I love yours. Better than what I have for you. I had bubbly, Yeah, I had which I think happy birthday.
Happy, yes.
Yes, I love your energy and you're smiling when you're talking about what you do. It shows when you're there, you give your 100%.
Yeah.
But then, guess what? I have the last one, workaholic.
Yes. Yes.
You
That's
don't go out and see many shows. You don't. I can't even ask you if you've
Yep.
seen Hell's Kitchen.
Hell's Kitchen is the one that there's no actual enmity between shows, but kind of dubbed them our nemesis when we were on Outsiders because we both started at the same time.
I see.
Yeah, and everyone was just like, oh yeah, like Hell's Kitchen this, Hell's Kitchen that, blah, 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 all of that stuff, and Outsiders was like, oh yeah, and that was good too, because Hell's Kitchen was
kind of
very...
an afterthought and was just as good. I see.
Yeah, and Hell's Kitchen was one of those where it's like, oh, Alicia Keys, all of this stuff, blah, 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 and Outsiders was like, oh yeah, like a 70-year-old book, yeah, people have been teaching that, cool, and... and especially coming up to Tony's and all of that, everyone was just like, oh yeah, like Hell's Kitchen will probably win and blah, 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 all of this stuff. So when we won, it was just like, take that. Absolute. So
nothing against it, but like I get
no.
what you're saying.
Nothing against the show
no.
in general, but it was one of the because in New York they post the weekly grosses for all of the shows, and it was one of those like whatever I checked, it was like as long as we did better than Hell's Kitchen, that's all that matters.
Oh man, I love this.
So it was very much like I know some people who are on it. They are all lovely people. I'm glad the show did well. There's a thing called the FIRE movement. It's financial independence, retire early. It's mostly for people who hated their jobs and wanted to retire as quickly as possible. And it's kind of spread into a bigger thing about basically getting to a point where you have financial autonomy. And kind of the first step of it is what they call FU money, where like... which, quite frankly, was kind of what I did on Outsiders, where I was just like, okay, fine, you're gonna be pissy at me if I take time off, and for me to have shadows, I can leave.
Right.
So it's like you have that, it's that cushion of, I can walk away from this job and I will be fine. I will have enough time to settle myself to find something. So yeah, it's giving yourself a financial cushion, like especially if you're planning on moving across an entire ocean. And it's very freeing, especially for somebody in the arts.
I'm so honored you made the time for me, and it's probably so late. Like, what time is it for you now?
It's about midnight.
This
This is fairly usual for me, but
you say you should go out more.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun. Oh,
me too. This is great.
I learned a lot.
This was wonderful.
Thanks.
And then, if you ever come up to New York, I am here. Let me know.
I'm not even joking. You know, people say things just to say things.
I am not either. 100%. It is not an empty offer. Yeah, but that's part of it. Like I rented a 2-bedroom apartment because like I wanted my parents to be able to come up. I knew I have friends who come into the city when they're prepping tours and things like that. By the time you come to visit, I will have hobbies.
You'll have hobbies?
Yes.
Right.
So you'll have to give me a little time to get hobbies, but come on down.
I'll give you time. I've got you. Maybe go.
That'll be great. Yeah. Ooh, yes. Bryant Park. I need to see if they have it because it's been kind of warm. But they have bumper cars on ice in the winter. So if you come down in the winter, that is a lot of fun.
There we go. You see? We're onto something already.
Yeah. We got this. We'll be great.
Oh, man. When you do eventually go to bed, I wish you just sweet dreams and,
Thank you.
Peaceful sleep and all that. Just rest easy.
I will not keep you from your day off, so go. But this was delightful. Thank you for reaching out.
Much,
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sound Girl.
I love that. Yeah, this was great. We will have to do it again.
Bye, dear.
All right. Have a fun day.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.